in our tradition, we have all these different names for it. So it's called the ruh, it's called the nafs, it's called the aql, it's called the fu'ad, it's called the nuha, it's called the lub. I mean, the al-hija. There's all these different names. And the Arabs say, كثرة الأسامي تدل على عظمة المسمى. That many names indicate the immensity of the thing named. So Allah's, we don't know Allah's names. Allah has names that we know 121 names if we look in the tradition that we've been given, like the Qur'an has. If you include what they call the asma al-mushtaqqa. But the Arabs name things that have great import. And so, like, for instance, the lion has many names. There's over 500 names for the lion in Arabic. So the lion is something, and there were a lot of lions on the Arabian Peninsula. So it was something immense to the Arabs, like the lion. And the dog has many names in Arabic. There's a famous Abu Ali al-Ma'arri who was blind. A man bumped into him and called him a kalb. Because he was blind, he bumped into the man. The man called him a kalb, and he said, "Al-kalbu man la ya'rufu 50 isman lil-kalb." The real dog is the one that doesn't know 50 names for dog. And so Imam Suyuti wrote a tabarri min sibab al-ma'arri, how to get out of the curse of al-ma'arri. So he wrote a book on the 50 names of the dogs, so you could learn them and not be a kalb. According to Abu Ala. So the intellect has many names because there are many different aspects to the intellect. It's a multifaceted phenomenon. And consciousness study is one of the obsessions of modern people, because we have a whole slew of these people that want to prove that consciousness is material. The judgment, even in modern science, they don't really fully understand consciousness, where it comes from. They understand aspects to the brain. Neuroscience is very well developed. But they don't understand consciousness, especially the qualitative aspect of consciousness, like how we experience things qualitatively, not quantitatively, not measurably, but how we experience things qualitatively you can't put your hand on it. There's nothing there to indicate that it's a material phenomenon. It's an immaterial phenomenon. And that's why consciousness for us is a proof of the immaterial world. The very fact that we're conscious. Even though God's put us in these bodies, we're embodied, and so we experience consciousness through the sensoria, but we also have a priori reason. We have the ability to think outside of the sensoria. We can think about things that we have no experience in the sensoria of them, and contemplate them. And so he's pointing this out, that the intellect, it's a momentous thing, and it's something that we should listen to. But we don't. So he says, he quotes the poet who says, إِذَا مَا دَعَتْكَ النَّفْسُ يَوْمًا بِشَهْوَةٍ وَكَانَ عَلَيْهَا لِلْقَبِيحِ الطَّرِيقُ فَدَعْهَا وَخَالِفْ مَا اشْتَهَيْتَ فَإِنَّهَا عَدُوٌّ وَدُودٌ وَالْخِلَافُ صَدِيقُ. That if your nafs, if this lower self calls you one day to some appetite, and it was something foul, it would lead to a foul thing, then he says, leave it and go against what you're desiring, because desire is a friendly enemy, right? So it's tricking you. And he says, وَالْخِلَافُ صَدِيقُ, to go against it is your real friend. And the Prophet ﷺ, for that reason, said, حُفَّتَ الْجَنَّةُ بِالْمَكَارِهِ وَحُفَّتَ النَّارُ بِالشَّهَوَاتِ. He also said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and it's one of the foundational hadiths, according to Imam Al-Nawawi in the Arba'een, he said that the Prophet ﷺ was reported to have said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به. That none of you truly believes until the hawa, the desire of the person, is in accordance with what I have brought. So initially you have to struggle with that. But once the sunnah becomes your habit, it's your want, you've habituated yourself to following the Prophet's guidance, then you have the malaka of virtue. And so your hawa now is in accordance with what he desired. I was with a man once who now apparently lives in Arizona and has a coffee shop, but I was thinking, somebody was telling me about him yesterday, but I remember he had just become Muslim, and that somebody offered him a date, and he said he didn't like dates, and the person offering him a date said, "Oh, the Prophet loved dates," and he said, "Oh, I love dates," and he took the date and ate it, and that is the way we should be with the Prophet ﷺ. Even though you don't have to follow what were those things that were cultural to the Prophet ﷺ. There are certain things that are cultural. They're not really sunan. They're cultural things. But people who love the Prophet ﷺ will even follow those things. So the Prophet brought us this amazing tradition, and so we should love it. And our hawa, our desire should be in accordance with it. ولذلك يحتاج الإنسان أن يقاد في مبادئ أمره إلى مصالحه بضرب من القهر. And for this reason, the human being should be led in the beginning of his affair to these benefits with really a type of coercion. In other words, you should coerce yourself. It's not from outside. لا إكراه في الدين. You can't coerce people to virtue. I mean, obviously your children, you have some level of you can compel them to a certain degree, but in the end, it's much better to get them to love things, because as a wise Greek said, that things that are learned through compulsion never stay. They don't stay. And that's why, one of the things that Dr. Cleary said was very interesting. He said about that verse, La ikraha fi din, he said, true religion comes from the heart. One should not feel compelled to pray. One should want to pray. And that's really when the religion has become real for you. It's no longer this thing you have to do. It's the thing that you want to do. It's very different. La ikraha fi din. So he says initially, and this is why the Prophet said, Ya ajaban liqawmin yuqaduna ila al-jannah bis-salasil. So this is about a group of people that he knew would become Muslim, and he saw them. They were prisoners after the battle, and they were not tied up, and he laughed when he saw them. I mean, and the Prophet did not laugh, qahqaha. The Arabs call it qahqaha, yuqahqihu, like ha ha ha. The Prophet, his laugh was a smile. And even you rarely saw his nawajid, the molars, those front molars. But usually he would smile where they said they could see his canines. So he was smiling, seeing these people, and one of them thought, why are you, these people are in tribulation, why are you smiling? And he said, ajaban, like it's wondrous to see people that are being taken to paradise in chains. Because he knew they would become Muslim. So even though they were opposing him then, he knew that they would become Muslim. And so he just saw that. And that's why Ibn Ata'illah, one of the things he says in the Hikam, he says that if you don't come to Allah with ihsan, right, then He will bring you with salasil al-imtihan, the chains of tribulation. Like if you don't go to Him from His ihsan, He will give you tribulations in your life to drive you to Him. So it's always better to go from His ihsan, like because His ihsan is so immense, and just out of gratitude. وحق الإنسان أن يجاهد هواه إلى أن يقتحم العقبة فيتخلص حينئذ من أذاه. So he says that it's appropriate for a man, for a human being. Insan really is a genderless. It means both male and female. حق الإنسان أن يجاهد هواه, to struggle against one's passion. إلى أن يقتحم العقبة, until you actually reach the acme. So you've gone up the steep ascent, which is difficult. I just climbed a hill, and by the end of it, you're huffing and puffing, but when you get to the top, there's a great relief. And so that's what he's saying. فَيَتَخَلَّصْ حِينَئِذٍ مِنْ أَذَاهُ. So you're free from the harm of the self. And Ibn al-Munkadir, who was Imam Malik's teacher, one of the great Medinan scholars, he said, جَاهَدْتُ نَفْسِي 50 سَنَةً حَتَّى اسْتَقَامَتْ لِي. I struggled with myself for 50 years until it was finally in submission and upright for me. So this is a war with yourself. You're struggling against yourself. And the worst thing that people do is give in to their self. It's the worst thing that people do. And you'll never feel good about yourself if you give in to yourself. You will only feel good about yourself if you fight yourself. If you don't fight yourself, you won't feel good about yourself. When you achieve something after great effort, that's always an immense inshirah that comes. There's an expansion in your heart that comes from striving for something.